It's always very strange when I come into a room and hear me speaking. I thought, oh, there's a ghost in here somewhere. Okay, welcome everybody, especially those who are sitting in the back there who come to listen to the Dhamma talk. Okay, come on, we've got plenty of time. And those of you who are on the retreat here. So we're just going to wait until everything settles down. For these talks which I'm giving in the evening, this is especially for those guests here. They're all somehow to do with the meditation, but hopefully that they'll be useful for those people who are just coming in to listen to a Dhamma talk. So sometimes when I give a Dhamma talk in public, it's usually on all sorts of things concerned with daily life. But because this is a meditation retreat, most of the talks in the evening are somehow to do with meditation. Very good. So, just as I was coming in here, I was listening to myself on the talk there about the difference between being a spiritual director and being a spiritual dictator. So, even though that I'm a boss of a Buddhist society, that you never actually become a dictator. I always find the way to get your own way is to be able to use psychology. And it's the same psychology which I use to train my mind as I do to train my monks. Those of you who've got children, and those children, if they're misbehaving, and you try to control them, it's just like having a mind which misbehaves in meditation. You try to control it. If you know psychology, you can train your children really, really well. For example, there was one family who told me that they could not get their son to go to the temple. Every time they said, come and listen to one of the monks at the temple. He said, no. So I told them, listen, this is what you should do. You go out in the evening, go to the temple, just don't tell your son where you're going. And when they say, Mum, Dad, where are you going? Say, none of your business. So why is it none of my business? Look, it's none of your business, be quiet. That's number one, to get them interested. And number two, if they find out, are you going to the temple? You say, yes. Son, you can't go. Prohibited. And when you tell your child, oh, you're banned from going to the temple. Why am I banned from going to the temple? Don't ask silly questions, you just can't go. And of course, their son went. It's reverse psychology. It's amazing, just you think it's quite simple, but it's amazing just how well that works, reverse psychology. That a year or two ago, there's one of our members. She was a very successful businesswoman and very good, a very bright person. We wanted her on our committee. So I went up to talk with her and I said, that it'd be very nice. We're having our committee elections soon. It'd be very good if you stand for one of the posts. I was actually thinking of getting her to be vice president. And she immediately said, now listen, I have to do so much work. I'm so busy. I can't even have time for my family, let alone doing any more work. It's just too busy. And of course, as soon as I heard her, I knew that if I followed on that particular path, I would never get her on our committee. So I said, oh look, I made a mistake, sorry. Now I don't want you to even think about this, because I know that sometimes people feel guilty if they, you asked by me for a good cause and you can't do it. I said, no look, you can't do it. In fact, I said, I'm banning you from even thinking about it. So you can't be on our committee, okay? Don't even think about it, you're banned. And a few days later, it worked perfectly. She rang me up and said, why am I banned for being on your committee? And she became our vice president. It worked very easily. Because when you use reverse psychology, you know how to work with people. It's the same with when I was a young monk. I was the number 2 in our monastery. And so I had an abbot the one who was senior to me. And of course, when you've got a boss, either at work or in the monastery or in the family, you've got to be very smart and learn how to get your own way. So, how I learnt to get my own way, even though I wasn't boss, I was a power behind the scenes because I use psychology. The simile which I usually give was like we were building our monastery, and so I go up to him and say, why don't we build a hut over there on the hill? I just make the suggestion very calmly, and he would say, don't be ridiculous, that's a stupid idea. No one will build a hut on the hill. Now with psychology you do not argue with the boss. You use more devious means than arguing. So I said, oh okay, yeah, very, very good. And I wouldn't push the point. I'd wait for 1 or 2 weeks when I was sure he'd forgotten. And then I'd say it again. Why do we build a hut on the hill? And he would say, oh, it's a silly idea. I don't think that would work. And I would leave it. Usually I'd only need 2 times. Sometimes 3 at most. But what would happen? Another couple of weeks would go past. And I'd be walking with him. And he said, I've just had this idea. We should build a hut on the hill up there. And I'd always say, wow, what a great idea of yours. Now, how this worked was as follows, and I'll now tell you how that works in meditation. How that works is, if it really is a good idea, all you need to do is to plant the seed. The problem is, people actually plant the seed just too fiercely. They hammer the seed home, and they destroy both the receptacle and the seed at the same time. You plant the seed, and whatever someone hears, they do actually remember. They cannot maybe recall it, but subconsciously it's gone in, and all you do need is to give it time to germinate. Subconsciously they'll be thinking about it. When they say, oh, it's a stupid idea, don't be ridiculous. That's not really true. That's just on the surface. That's their first reaction. But the seed has gone in. And they think about it. You maybe have to reinforce it 1 or 2 times at most. Why don't we build a hut on the hill? Subconsciously they think about that. And if it really is a good idea, it appears to them as their idea. And that's the most important thing. Because bosses are very proud. And they want their ideas to appear as if it came from them. So the abbot would say, oh, why don't we, this is my idea, why won't we build a hut on the hill? Who cares whose idea it is, as long as I get my own way and get the hut on the hill? And it always worked. And it appeared to them as it was their idea. So if you are number 2 in the office, or if you've got a husband who thinks he's controlling you, this is how to slip those ideas underneath his radar screen. And then he comes on and says, oh, I think it's a wonderful idea. I think my idea is a good idea. Let's give a donation to the temple or something. You say, oh, what a wonderful idea of yours, darling. Even though you knew it was your idea all along. Now that's actually also how we use our mind in meditation. How we control our mind. We give it some good suggestions. We don't have to force the mind. We give a few suggestions and we let those suggestions germinate. If we're doing, say, breath meditation, we say, mind, why didn't you watch the breath? And sometimes you know what it's like already. You say, that's a silly idea, says the brain or the mind. It doesn't cooperate. Leave it alone. Don't push it. And then, maybe a day later, suggest it again. Oh, mind, why didn't you watch the breath and be peaceful? Don't be ridiculous, says your mind, as it goes thinking about the past, sleeping, being restless or whatever, and you can't do it. You've got to use psychology. Just make a suggestion. Then after a while, you will find the mind wants to watch the breath. It wants to do it. You don't force it. The same way you use psychology to watch the breath in meditation, so you use psychology to get your own way in life. The psychology works both ways. Which is why we have to be kind in meditation, to be able to make it work. Why kindness and compassion and wisdom work in life. If it's a good idea, it will germinate, grow, and come to fruition. And peace is a good idea in meditation. But do we really make peace in our meditation? There are two types of meditation. It's the subject of this evening's talk. The two types of meditation. And it's not samatha and vipassana. You all know that. This is a new type of two types. Actually, samatha and vipassana are the same. The two types of meditation are making peace meditation and making war meditation. Now, which type of meditation do you do? Is it making war on your body and war on your mind? As you sit up here and say, body, sit still, or else. Mind, be quiet. Be quiet. How many times have I told you? Be quiet. Have you made war or have you made peace so far? If your meditation is a battleground, as I said yesterday, you will experience collateral damage. You will have headaches, you'll have pain, you'll be despondent, you'll be fed up. You'll think, my goodness, this is my holiday. Why am I spending so much of my holiday time sitting here with a sore back, with a sore bottom, with a crazy mind? That only happens if you make war with your mind. You don't make war with your mind. You make peace with your mind. How can you expect to achieve peacefulness if all you do is fight battles? Trying to control your mind. Get rid of all the things which you don't like. We have peaceful meditation, not war meditation. The Buddha was a pacifist. This is how we look at our mind, with compassion and peace. How can we make peace? We make peace by every moment. Whatever we experience, we make peace with it. Whatever you experience, make peace with it. If you're making peace, you're making the good karma of peace for the future. If you're making war, you're battling, you will never get peace that way. You'd only get more disturbance. So every moment in your meditation becomes a moment of making peace. Making peace with this moment, making peace with this moment, making peace with this moment. For all you meditators who have come to me in the interview time and say you've been tired, you've been sleepy, so have I. Out of compassion, out of empathy for you, I was also sleepy this afternoon. Now what do we mean there? Why? It was because of causes and effects. I've been very busy in Singapore, giving lots and lots of talks. Even, it's very hard being a monk, you know. Because you give a talk, someone offers to drive you to the talk. On the way, they ask all their questions. As soon as you get in to the hall, people, even before you can sit down, they come up to you and say, can I ask a question? And afterwards you have question time, and on the way out, as they escort you to the car, they ask you their questions. Even when you're stuck in the lift going down to the bottom of the ground floor, they're asking you questions. And they always say, just one more question. When I say just one more question, hang on, there'll be 2 or 3 for sure. And if they don't ask me a question at the time, they hand me these slips of paper with their questions on. So it's a lot of hard work being a monk. No wonder I'm tired. It's nature. It's not my fault. So if you're tired in the first few days, it's not your fault. Make peace with your tiredness. For those of you who are tired, I love to tell this story. The Buddha was walking in the forest with Ananda, his chief disciple, one of his chief disciples, his attendant, sorry. And as he was walking through the forest, he saw a monk by the edge of the forest, sitting absolutely straight. His posture was perfect. And the Buddha turned around to Ananda and said, I'm worried about him. And Ananda can say, why? Wait and see. And of course, 1 or 2 weeks later, that monk had disrobed and got married. When he went deeper into the forest, he saw another monk who was nodding this way and nodding that way, really sloth and lots of torpor, very sleepy. And the Buddha turned around to Ananda and smiled. So I'm not worried about him. In 2 weeks, he was fully enlightened. So all of those of you who are sleepy this afternoon, who knows, maybe in a couple of weeks, you could be fully enlightened. Look, one of the famous sleepy monks in the time of the Buddha was Mahamoggallana. It was in the sutras the Buddha caught him nodding. He was sleepy, and he became one of the foremost monks in psychic powers. Oh, all you people who are sleepy this afternoon, you could be developing psychic powers soon. And actually the reason why is, I've got another glass, my goodness. Look at these, huge. Honey, yeah. I know that I usually have small cups, but because this is a Mahayana temple, we've got big vehicle cups. Anyway, who cares anyway? Anyway, so the reason is that when the Buddha saw that first monk who was so stiff, he was perfect posture, but he was a control freak. Now you can make yourself look very, very mindful. You can look mindful, you can appear mindful, you can look like you're doing the meditation, but it's just control, control, control. That type of control freak on the outside looks, wow, look at her. She sits so straight, so strong, but it's all control. It's not coming from the right place. And because if you're a control freak, you'll never get any peace, never any happiness. You're making war with every moment. You're making war with your body. You know what happens when you make war with your body in meditation? You get samadhi headache. Which many people get here in meditation because they make war. They're trying too hard. I don't know if I told this story, but there's a man went into a psychiatrist. He had this very, very terrible psychosis or phobia or whatever you call it. But he was really crazy. He said, "Doctor, sometimes I think I'm a marquee. Sometimes I think I'm a teepee." And the doctor said, "What? A marquee? A teepee?" He hadn't read that in his books. He hadn't heard that syndrome at the university. Someone who imagines they're a teepee half the time, and the other time they think they're a marquee. And he had a moment of insight. He said, "I've got it. I know your problem. You are too tense." Got it? Yeah. So don't be tense in meditation. Be relaxed. Yeah, marquee is a type of tent. A teepee is what the Red Indians, the indigenous Indians of the United States used to use as their tents. The two T-E-N-T-S and T-E-N-S-E is also means you're too tight. So this is what happens when we get too tense. We never find any peace at all. The other monk, yeah, he was relaxing. He was getting sleepy, but it's only a matter of time before your sleepiness disappears. The sleepiness comes because of causes, because people have been working so hard. In Western psychology, it's called sleep deficit.